Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yet again, there's another interesting show today. Let me welcome Mr. Indrajit Bhalotia, who needs no introduction. Thank you so much, Mr. Indrajit. He is the 5 times winner of the PGA Tour of India. He is the staff teacher of National Golf Academy. And also previously he has served India's junior golf team coach. It's my real honor and privilege to welcome you on my show, Indrajit.
Thank you. It's my honor too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming here. I've been reading your life journey, life journal, your various interviews across media. I know that you started playing golf at an early age of 4. And I think you won your first tournament maybe at the age of 10. How did you develop that interest and passion at such an early age?
That's right. So probably even before 4. So my father actually plays golf, and I started following him and used to take me to the Tollygunge Club and RCGC when he used to play golf. So that's how I started, and from then onwards I was more of an introvert as a child. So golf suited my personality, and I could actually go out and play and do things on my own without having someone there. So I think that was probably one of the main reasons why I picked up golf to other sports.
That's awesome to know. At age of 4 and 10, maybe I was figuring out what is my name and what I'm trying to do, and you already started playing. That's people say you develop interest at a very early age, and of course parental, you learn from your parents. So that's a true replica. So good to know that. Indrajit, my next question, you have been the top golfer in the country, and you've taken India to a different level by exuding your skill set. What has been the key formula to your success? What is the key ingredient you think had really made you where you are today?
I think first of all, every youngster is passionate about something or the other in life. Sports, sports specific. Obviously, here we are talking about sports, but everyone is passionate. But I think what makes it different is, you have to be obsessive. Passionate is not enough. So even our company, we our motto is passion to obsession, because what I believe is being passionate is not enough to be successful or be at the top of your profession. You have to be obsessive. You have to breathe day in, day out. Every minute you have to be obsessed with what you're doing, and it has to be a single-minded obsession to actually be a leader in your field. And it's more so in sports, because sports is a field where average people go nowhere. Either you are on top or you're nobody. Today we see IPL is there, but there are only 40, 50, 60 players in IPL who actually make a living. Rest of the guys, people who are playing Ranji trophies and all, they don't even earn a proper livelihood. So we only see the success stories and we don't see the failure. So for me, it was an obsession. And right from the beginning, I think from the age of 10, 11, I had nothing else in mind except, playing golf. I never, at such an age, you don't look at, you don't fear failure. And you don't think that what if I don't make it? Today, as a parent, when I see my son doing something, I think that, what if he doesn't make it? But when we were kids, at that age, you don't think about it. And my parents were very supportive, and that I think was a huge advantage, because in the 80s, to take sports as a career, especially from a middle class family where your father has got a job, it's not a business. So the risks are huge. But if you have a father or mother, who has a set business, and you come from a family where next 3 generations don't have to worry about where the money is going to come from, or you come from a family where there's nothing to lose, you are below the poverty line. So a middle class family person to take sports as a career in India is very, very difficult. So you see most of the success stories in Indian sport, you'll find either the the athlete comes from a really well-to-do family, or they come from a family where there's nothing to lose. They barely get a meal to eat.
Very true.
Rarely you'll find a middle-class success story.
You kind of articulated it so well, Indrajit. I can totally now relate to your conversation. Yes, you can actually, a lot of talent of the country is dying because parents of the middle class family, they don't know whether they really can make it to the top, because sports only the few counts. And as very well said that in Obsession, we have heard Mr. Abdul Kalam said that dream is something not what you see while you sleep, but you see which doesn't let you sleep. And that is the obsession one need to have to really make it to the next level. Thanks for that prompt answer. I just wanted to also know, you have been the first person in India to launch the sport education portal. Can you talk a little bit about it, how it will help our sports fraternity?
So, we actually planned this about 3 to 4 years back. And what I believe is, sports science, because I used to go to America to train with my coach, mental toughness coach, fitness coach. In India, even today, there is no sports science facilities, and it's at a very nascent stage. And I thought that, if we have a portal, if we have an online education program where we look at sports science, or even with my education, I dropped out of, after class 10, I dropped out of school, and then I did my class 12 and my graduation through correspondence. But we had nothing. I mean, open schooling, there is no tuition. All the education portals or all the educational institutions are looking at excellence. So when you look at a tuition or an online tuition, or you look at any of these very popular education apps, they all teach you to get 90%, 99%. They all teach you to excel. So I wanted to do something for those athletes, or for people. Someone wants to play a guitar, someone wants to be a footballer, someone wants to be a singer, someone wants to just travel and follow his passion or her passion. And for them, there is no education portal which lets them, just gives them enough, maybe 20%, 30%, 40% of the entire syllabus, where they can actually just study for maybe half an hour a day or 1 hour every 3 days and actually get their educational degree. So this champforlife.in, champforlife.com is basically that portal which helps youngsters follow their dream and complete their education. Because you'll know that in India, if you're not a graduate, you don't even get a membership in a club, you're looked down upon. People will still point fingers at you. So education is very important in India, and that is what the portal does. It gives you an opportunity to do your open schooling, and with the tuition is completely different. It's just basic so that you can pass.
Oh, this is truly exciting. In fact, this is something the need of the hour. It's called champforindia.com, right?
No, it's champforlife.com.
Wow. I think the name also kind of symbolizes that passion you want to bring it to those young children. It's fantastic. Go check out that fantastic site. Thank you for sharing that. Indra, my next question will be, I have been seeing your wonderful charity work you keep doing. I keep seeing your social handle, and I'm so touched by the kind of work you have been doing. Can you please tell us a little bit of charity work that you have been doing, and so that our viewers can get to know? A lot of people want to know how to do it. So I just want to know your part of it.
So basically, I lost my mother about in 2009, but she was a very, very charitable person. And, where we used to stay in Moore Avenue, there used to be a slum near our house called Borua Para, So, and my mother was like the godmother of that entire area. And, everybody would come, the local Baba would come and say, I have this problem. She would give him money, and she would give money to almost everybody. And, whatever my father would be earning would be going out in charity. And she was like looked upon as like the queen of that place, who was helping out everybody. Everybody means everybody. And then, when I lost her in 2009, I figured that uh, I need to continue what she was doing, and we had already moved from that area. And I used to give 10% of all my earnings to charity, different charities. And I used to sign a check and give, so whatever prize money I earned, 10% would go straight to the charities. And then, I figured that, if I'm giving 100 rupees to a charity, 30, 40 rupees is going into the admin. And what is the point of doing it? I mean, I would want to do it myself. So I decided to start my charity about 12 years, just when my mother passed away. And we started adopting children, underprivileged children. We started with golfers. So, kids, caddies, children, rickshawalas, children who would be ball boys in the clubs. And I started supporting them through my mother, through a trust which we created. And there was one boy, Tutul Ali, who we sent to America to play the World Championship. And he finished in the top 25. And he traveled alone because we couldn't afford to send anyone with him. But we obviously got some help, and we sent. And he finished top 25 in the world juniors. So he was basically top 25 in the world. His father's earning was less than 3,000 rupees a month. And this boy was staying in a hotel, which was $250 a night. And,
oh my God.
And at San Diego, he finished in the top 25. So it was one of the highlights of our charity work. And that has been continuing. And, we support a lot of youngsters who are talented and can't afford to play golf. Now that Champ for Life also is supporting about close to 100 children with their education. So that is one part of the charity work we do. The second part is we feed 300 very poor children near Diamond Harbour every day. So, we do a meal for 300 children. So we try and give them a full meal every day. The days we can't afford it, we give them milk, but we definitely don't miss out a single day. And this has been going on for almost 5 years. And I think we are close to 7 lakh meals already, which we've done.
This is something, such a powerful story. Yeah. This is so, I was literally developing goosebumps when you talked about that little boy who made it there, whose father was just 3,000 rupees earner. That's called influencing life. That's called touching life. This is something who could never dream of having maybe 3 courses of a meal. He's literally flying high across the globe and playing golf and representing India. That's something, Indra, it is really, really powerful stories. I think the more we give it out to the world, the kind of joy and the kind of, fulfillment one feels. This is something, and the 7 lakh children, this is really, really very powerful. So excited to know about this wonderful thing.
I just wanted to add one thing, I have noticed, and this is for everyone who's listening. Every time we were short of money, because, the kind of stuff we are doing is requires a lot of money. And every time we were short of money, God found a way to send that. So we have never every time we struggled, and there have been times when I was 1.25 lakhs short, and a friend who I've not been in touch with sent 1.25 lakhs, exact amount. So when you do good, I think the more you give, the more you get back. So my only request to everyone is, when you have enough, go out freely and give, and I can promise you'll get tenfold back.
This is so true. Is there, if people want to contribute to that, what is the way people can contribute to this initiative?
So we have a website called nochildsleepshungry.in.
Okay.
nochildsleepshungry.in. That's a website basically that looks after the charity for these children. And most of my friends who contribute, 90% of the revenue that we raise to help these children comes from Facebook. So, Facebook has been a very, very helpful medium from where friends get to know what we are doing. And, people who follow my page or follow me, or some friends who are on my friends list, they can see what we do. And there have been times when people have asked me that, when you do charity, switch off your camera. But that is true. But unfortunately, for us, if we have to raise funds to get the charity working, you don't have to say I'm doing a great job, but you can always say that, this is what is happening. And if you want to be a part of it, join in. So that's the whole idea about sharing these stories and, letting people know what is going on.
No, it's very important and beautiful. There are maybe 10,000 followers I'll have, including, and each one of you can contribute just 10 rupees to nochildsleepshungry.in, right? This is the website.
Yeah. So a meal, a full meal of khichdi, aloo dum, and some sweets costs only 20 rupees. 20 rupees, if it drops out of your pocket, 99% of us don't even realize. And that's how much one full meal, a full meal costs.
So ladies and gentlemen, look at this powerful story. There are 7 lakh children have been fed. Just 20 rupees. Each one of us can actually save so many hungry stomach tomorrow. This is something really a very, very touching story. And, I'm really grateful that you shared this story with us, because I think a lot of people want to do things. They don't know what and how. There are so many, so they get confused. So I'm glad that you shared the story, and I'm sure all of us will come forward. It's very important. I'm sure one day it will come in India, there'll be no children will ever stay hungry. On that note, thanks for sharing that powerful charity work. Indra, my next question, I have seen you have kept no stones unturned to teach the young children around to play golf. And you've created an extraordinary space for that. So what is your message to these young kids who really wants to take up golf as a career?
Well, I won't only stick to golf. It's any sport or anything as a career. Like I mentioned, I'll tell you, when I decided to turn professional at the age of just about 17 and decided to drop out of school, coming from a middle-class Bengali family with everyone on my mother's side are professionals. My mother was a criminal lawyer in Calcutta High Court. 4 of her sisters were doctors. 1 was a chartered accountant. So for someone from a family like that to take sports as a career, dropping out of school, was a huge move and a huge risk. And I remember at that time, my father told me just one thing. He said, I will back you in whatever you do, 100%. The only thing that you have to promise is that you are not going to do anything that will make you go back in life at some point and say that I didn't try 100%. So just make sure that you put in your 100% effort. And when you look back in life, there should be no complaint from your side to yourself saying that maybe I could have worked harder and done better. And of course, that is never the case. When you look back, you always feel you could have done better. But that is a very strong message which my father gave me. And I want to give the same message to every youngster, whether they're going to play golf or cricket or football or follow a career or a passion. Whatever you do 100%, and never do it in a way where you may look back in life and say that I could have done it better. You have to be able to look back at your life and say that I give it 100%.
Very, very well articulated. So, a lot of young kids come to me and then, they said, what do? I want to follow cricket as my passion. My parents are forcing me to do engineering, law and all of it, and then they get confused. They get a kind of sandwich. But what Indrajit mentioned very articulately, that whatever you do, give your 100%. And that is the key success sutra of the success formula. It is, you have to keep on giving your best, and you will attract the universal energy for taking you to the spotlight tomorrow. You will make it happen. On that note, my next question to you, Indrajit, golf in India is considered as a game of elite class, like it's an elite game, right? People generally consider, you play golf, it has to be a high net worth individual. And it is considered also to be the best ever networking game, because I have been working in, working with HNI families and various wealth management and succession estate planning companies, right? So we used to sponsor golf event, right? Because that's the best way to network. And I want to know, it's also sometimes conceptualized that it is not for common people. But in US, you see, it is generally anybody can play golf, but India is considered to be a different elite class. I wanted to have your take on that.
Right. So basically, you posed 2 questions to me. One was why it's an elite or called an elite sport in India, and two is the networking part. So I will answer in two different phases. See, the biggest challenge in India for golf is that most 90% of the golf clubs, more than 90%, are private golf clubs where you have to be a member. So the membership is for the elite, right? There are 600 or 700 odd golf courses in India. Out of that, I think 500 of them are army golf courses. So, traditionally the British left that legacy for us, and all the army golf courses, as of now, most of them are, only for the army and not for the civilians. And there are, I think, only one or two golf courses in India. I think Lado Sarai in Delhi and the Noida Golf Club to an extent, and Kharghar in Bombay. They are the only 2 or 3 golf courses which are public golf courses where someone can just pay and play. So the reason why golf is exclusive in India is not because it's expensive, but it's mainly because you don't have access to golf in India. And unless we have more public golf courses and public driving ranges, golf will always remain an exclusive and an aspirational sport in India. It's not about playing golf, it's about having access to the golf course.
Absolutely.
So coming to the second part of your question about the networking part, now there are few reasons why golf is such a corporate and a networking sport. Golf is an extremely tough sport. If you want to play golf professionally, you have to be physically extremely strong. Okay, I just want to kind of talk about golf and then I'll come to the corporate part of it. You're hitting a golf ball which flies 300 meters. I'm talking about a professional golfer, a top golfer, hitting a golf ball which flies 300 meters. Now, everyone's watching the IPL. Okay, the cricket ball flies 75 meters. So when a Dhoni or a Chris Gayle hits a 6, the ball has flown 75 meters. Now he has to go where the ball has dropped and then hit another 6, another 75 meters, and another 75 meters, and another 75 meters. Right? So he has to hit a cricket ball outside the stadium 225 meters away. That's where a golf ball lands. So if you say golf is an old man's game, I would request anyone to go to a golf course and try hitting a golf ball 50 meters, forget 300 meters. And they will never call the game an old man's game. Saying that golf is a game which an old man can play, right? My father's 84, he can play golf. But my father cannot play cricket or football. So golf is not an old man's game, but it's a game which an old man can play. So, an old man can play cards, an old man can play rummy, and an old man can play chess, and he can also play golf because you can play golf at a leisurely pace.
Absolutely.
Coming back to why it's a corporate sport, because it's such a tough sport, it drives you mad, right? And it gives you a lot of stress. Anyone who plays golf knows that it's a very stressful game, but it's positive stress. So all top corporate people, world leaders, every American president played golf. Today I can walk into any corporate head's office without even an appointment if he plays golf. All I need to do is give him a call and I'll be there. So whether, every top corporate man plays golf because it gives him a stress which takes away all the pressures that he has in his day-to-day corporate life, or if he's running a country, the pressure that he has running that country or the corporate is taken over by a sport as mad as golf, which drives him crazy. And he's walking in greenery, watching, getting to see the birds and the trees. And the entire environment for golf is very relaxing and stressful in a positive way. So that is one reason why all the top corporates play golf. And the second reason why you network on the golf course is because when I'm playing golf with somebody for 5 hours, I'm hitting the ball for only 15 minutes, right? Rest of that 4 hours, 45 minutes, I'm talking to him while walking. It's like going for a 12-kilometer walk with a guy at a 5-hour pace, at a leisurely pace, and you guys break every single barrier that you have. So today, if I ever play even one round of golf with, say, the US president, if I play, I can promise you that I'll be able to pick up my phone and give him a call on his personal line for the rest of my life. And that is the kind of, barrier that golf breaks. And that is why when people want to network, they play golf. Because today, if I want to get in touch with some corporate guy who I have no access to, if he's a golfer, and if I play golf and if I play decently, he would enjoy playing with me. And trust me, you will be able to pick up the phone and call any golfer who you've played even one round of golf on a one-on-one basis. And that is the power of the sport.
Thank you for demystifying the entire notion about golf. Yeah, the old man's one, it's not the match. You heard about the entire thing, what strength you require to hit a ball. So old man also can play, but golf is a game for the young, vibrant people who has required a lot of stamina to hit the ball.
Golf is a game which is actually on a downtrend worldwide, but the pandemic probably has been a lifesaver for golf, because a lot of people have started playing golf because it's the safest sport you can play in the world. You don't have to touch another person. You don't have to touch the equipment of another person. You can play on your own. You have 4 sides empty. You can stay 10 feet away from a person and still play golf with him. So probably golf has got a new lifeline, but the biggest disadvantage that golf has had is that you are spending about 5 hours playing a round of golf. And, with people working 6 days a week, just having a Sunday which is off, and if they are out for 5 hours, the family life suffers. And golf has been on a serious downtrend worldwide, not in India, because in India it's a aspirational sport, and you have to wait for an opportunity to learn. And it's probably now the only safe game that you can play without any contact with anyone.
Yeah, thanks to put that forward. Indrajit, what I liked, one of the things that this is the game where you walk the talk, and most of the business negotiation, most of the business closure happens during this powerful walk the talk show, right? And then
absolutely,
you all know why it is that golf and why it is called that. The most you want to rub shoulder with the biggest of the industrialists. That's the play, and that's the sports to look for. Thanks so much for demystifying this entire thought process of the golf. Brilliant. I just enrolled myself for the golf course, and unfortunately pandemic started, and I'm still looking forward. Hopefully I get to play with you someday. I know you'll be my guru, but hopefully I get that chance. On that note, my last question before we go to the rapid fire round, maybe a genuine question, what I feel internally, what keeps you going? Like, how do you get that zeal and the drive and dedication to constantly challenge your status quo?
Well, that's a good question. I've not really thought about it, but I turned professional at the age of 17, which is in 1989. It's 32 years, so I mean, I would probably look at retiring or something, but I think the biggest strength today I get to do anything is the work that we do, especially feeding those 300 children, and that's a responsibility that I have. And I'm a big Sai Baba follower, and his mission was to make sure that everyone's stomach is full, whether it's man or animal. The basic need for a human being or a living creature is to have his stomach full. And this project has actually given me a lot of strength to do a lot of things, and to continue doing everything that I'm doing. So I think if you kind of take upon a task or a good thing which will help the society and make it an important part of your life, I think it will give you a lot of strength. I'll give you just one more example. I was going through a little tough phase in my career, and in 1998, I decided that someone told me that you should go out and help one of the charitable organizations, Spastic Society of India, and I dedicated 10% of my earnings to charity, and it helped me perform. And even when I was under pressure and I was playing under pressure, I always felt that I was not only playing for myself, but I was also playing for a cause. And how much money I earned, or how well I did in my competition, actually also made a difference to a lot of lives. So that gave me a lot of strength to go out and perform. So if you kind of take upon some kind of a project or some kind of a mission, and I'm sure it will give you the strength to carry on even when you're feeling down.
Yeah, that's actually honestly, because the moment you think from yourself, from the myopic view to the world's larger view, you get a lot more, drive internally to push your limit constantly. And great, I've been really enjoying the conversation. I don't feel like kind of ending it. So I have a few interesting rapid fire rounds now. So are you ready? Should we go for it?
Sure.
Great. So Indrajit, I would like to know your most treasured moment in life.
Okay, that's a very tough question for a rapid fire, but there are a lot of them. So I can't say one. My son being born, so holding my son for the first time, winning my first tournament. So I don't know which one would be more important, but winning my first professional tournament at the age of 21, 93 probably is one of the most important.
And moments. Which ground did you win the tournament?
That was at Chennai, at the Guindy Golf Course, and that was. When you turn professional or you take up a career, you wonder whether you'll ever win a tournament in your life or not. So winning the first one is always the toughest one. So
exactly.
Definitely that one.
And that gives you that confidence. Okay. On that note, what is the most embarrassing moment you feel?
Oh, I probably I can't mention that, but once I got locked out of my hotel room in my undergarments, and I was stepping out to put my food tray out, just out of my room, and the door closed, and and there was no swimming pool also in that hotel to justify that I've come from a swim. So I think going to the reception in barely nothing was probably the most.
Oh God! And which year was it?
I don't remember. It was long back, probably 1990 or something in Malaysia.
Just after you won the golf tournament.
No, was that was 93. No, this is just when I was 18 or 19.
Okay.
It was in Malaysia.
Oh, okay, great. And what is the best golf course you have ever played?
The best golf course I think I've ever played was also the toughest I've ever played was Bethpage Black. Bethpage Black is in New York, and it's held a couple of US Opens, I think. And I've played a lot on that golf course, so that probably is the toughest. Maybe the best, maybe not the best. I've played hundreds of them, but that's one golf course that always strikes out.
How many golf tournaments? You must have, it will be countless, right? How many?
Well, if you take about 15 in a year on an average, and you multiply it into 32, so maybe 500 golf tournaments in a year in my lifetime. Professional.
Oh my God, that's huge. Okay, let me come back. Who is your favorite actor?
Oh, it's always been Amitabh Bachchan.
Oh, my favorite too. I know. Iconic figure. An actress?
Oh, there are too many of them. There are too many of them.
It is always the problem. Actors always too many, but you have to select one for my audience.
I don't know. Maybe Julia Roberts, because a couple of the movies were really.
Which was favorite? Julia Roberts movie. Which was his favorite most?
Two of them. I can't say one. One is Notting Hill and one is Pretty Woman.
Oh, both. I know. You can't really differentiate. They were outstanding. And who's your favorite villain?
Oh, all of them. I've always dreamt of at least doing one movie as a villain, because the villain gets to have all the fun, right? So he gets to do all the bad stuff, and he gets to enjoy himself till the end. So, I would love to do a movie where the villain finally wins.
So no worries. Next show, one of the biggest Bollywood producer coming in my show. I'll definitely propose this. You have a villain ready right now.
Definitely. I'm game.
Okay. You like reading book or listening to music?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of music. I kind of get these reading phases, but generally they're more of self-improvement kind of books which I've read, but I'm not a big time reader.
Okay.
But music, yes, I enjoy all the old Kishore Kumar and some of the English old stuff, like the tracks of Pretty Woman are brilliant,
right.
And so that kind of music is a little softer and little.
So what's your favorite song? I know there will be many, but still, what's the favorite song?
Oh, so my favorite song will definitely be Chalte Chalte. It's a Kishore Kumar
Why don't
song.
you sing it for the audience?
That's impossible. No. But the words of that song is absolutely brilliant. So.
You try it out. Nothing is impossible. Villain has to sing on the camera, then you have to sing, right?
No. That is one thing I won't do.
Okay, we'll see in the next talk show. Okay. I understand you read a lot of motivational, I think, self-improvement, self-help book. So, Shift Care of the World and the Stephen Covey's of the world, right? So, who is your favorite author?
One book which I read, which was really nice, was, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and by Dale Carnegie. So that's, I think, a brilliant book. In my day-to-day life, I've seen a lot of people who are very difficult to deal with, and who are very negative and very nasty. And I've always kind of the first reaction is that let him go to hell. I will show him, or you react also in a negative way. And over a period of time, I realized these people also carry some weight on their shoulder, and if you're a little nice to them, and if you just go out of the way and just make a little effort, take your hold back your ego and just make a little effort, some of them will end up being your biggest supporters and your biggest I won't say friends, but they'll definitely be people who will support you even behind your back. And these are the guys who would be negative. So just a little bit of kindness or a little bit of understanding, or just being a little nice to people can actually change a lot of things. And I have seen a lot of little conflicts or little issues that you have with people, just by being a little nice and just being a little understanding, or just taking one extra step, can remove so much problems and actually bring us so much peace. It's unbelievable. So I don't remember, but I think this Dale Carnegie's book talks a lot about
absolutely
being nice to people.
Yeah, that book, I think I am here in front of the camera with you today because of that book, because that really transformed the way I think. And this really, I think I'll suggest the reading of that book.
I've learned one lesson, is anything that you say to somebody is never forgotten. So be very careful of what you say, because that can ruin a relationship forever. And there's nothing that can, mend those words that you said. So it's very important, I think.
No, I know. There was a saying, pain is mightier than the sword. Similarly, spoken words are mightier, heavier than anything you say it out, right? Anything you do it in action. Last two questions before we kind of close the rapid fire and move to the one-word answer. Your favorite most sport apart from golf?
There would be two: cricket and tennis. I can't say one.
Achha, so you played both?
Well, a little bit of cricket I played in school, but after school I never played cricket. But tennis is something I play every weekend.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Tennis, I think, is a good sport. On that note, now the last episode of my show is gonna be a simple one-word answer. I'll give two different choices. You have to choose one. Okay. This is very simple. Your favorite, tea or coffee?
Tea.
Book or a movie?
Movie.
Chat or a phone call?
Tough one, chat.
Chat? Yeah. Okay. So, you know, if you have to reach out to Indrajit, please don't call him, do a chat. Okay. Walk in the garden or a glass of wine?
Walk in the garden.
Favorite place on earth?
The Sevashram, where we by the riverside where we have a ashram.
Okay. Maybe the last question I'll ask you. If you want to change anything about Indian golf, you know, way the golf sports are looked at, or in, you know, what is that one thing you want to change about it?
Turn all the private courses to public courses.
Wow, that's such a lovely answer, so that you have more access to people to play, right? Great. On that note, thank you so much, Indrajit. I had really an awesome last 45 minutes chatting with you, and thanks for sharing so much of knowledge, so much of experience, so much of life history, life story. You brought it up. I'm sure this will motivate really a lot of people who have been looking and watching the show. Thank you so much for coming in, and I wish you all the very best. I'm sure your charity work will really touch millions and millions of people, and I'm sure one day will come, there will be no child who will ever sleep hungry. On that note, again, once again, thanking you, and thanks audience for watching our show. It was really my pleasure to host you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.